A story that will get me. And first of all, good to see you. Great to see you.
Good to see you too. You look great.
Great
like
T-shirt.
I like what you're doing there. I like what you're doing there. With the glasses. Okay. I mean, it's complimenting the. Is that a jean shirt? Ish.
It's not intentional. Not intentional. Not intentional. It's like it's
not a. Is that a jean? You bring it back to. Okay, no, it looks good.
It's just blue.
You look good. You look good. You marked it good.
Is it blue?
Okay.
Appreciate you. Look, you marked it good. You marked it good. You marked it good. Shout out.
65 toss power trap.
But you know, I'm telling you, Mike, a story that will get me every time is a story like Geno Smith's. There's so many lessons in this story. As the great Mos Def said, there's one universal law, but two sides to every story. And so that's Geno, really, because when he got to New York, he got, as a second-round pick with the New York Jets, he came into, as we know in retrospect, he came into like a losing situation. You know, the Jets have been the same for a long time, but it was a losing situation for him. The team was getting older. His number one receiver, Santonio Holmes at the time, was past his prime, getting close to retirement. Rex Ryan was getting close to his time at the end of the Jets semi-run at the top of the AFC. Offensive linemen were retiring. He was set up to fail, which is what
exactly.
Exactly.
He got his jaw broken by a teammate.
All that. He was set up to fail, and he did. Then he became like this journeyman, bouncing all around. He just referenced it there in that clip. He's there in New York with the Giants, backing up Eli Manning. The Giants correctly determined that it was time for Eli to go. Geno steps in, and then people in New York lost their minds as if Eli hadn't been struggling for years, as if Eli couldn't be replaced. And he became the face of the Giants' dysfunction. He took the hit on that, was there one and done, and kind of bounced around, learning from some great quarterbacks along the way, including Russell Wilson. So Mike, I'm just happy for him. I'm happy for Geno Smith, who is now a QB1. And I'll tell you, I'm going to pass it to you on this.
Yeah.
I like the way he's telling his story. You know what he's saying? Every opportunity he gets, everybody is looking for him to say something that is tinged with bitterness. Yeah. And his message is, I'm not doing this because the haters said I couldn't. I'm doing it because the lover in me knows that I always could. And I'm getting the opportunity. I was always a star.
Y'all just didn't know it.
I'm getting the opportunity. I'm getting the opportunity. He said, this is home.
Yeah.
He said, Seattle feels like home to me. And you know what it's like when you feel like you've got the ability and you're just looking for somebody who believes in you. You're looking for an opportunity.
All can relate to that.
Ooh, I love it.
We can all relate to that.
If they said to me, you got to preach in 2 hours, I'm preaching that. I'm preaching that.
Bro, I'm telling you.
I love it.
I'm telling you. Like we can all relate to somebody not seeing what you can do. We all can relate to being held back by somebody else's imagination or lack thereof. I mean, Geno Smith is all of us to some extent.
That's right.
But I tell you can go all the way back to when he was drafted. Because remember, he was one of the guys that was left in the green room. And that was a spectacle in and of itself, something of an embarrassment, and led to a lot of conversation about, the green room and who should come to the draft so that a guy doesn't have to, wait till the next day to get his name called and still be there, that sort of thing. So it goes all the way back there. The way he said it after game one, after the first game of the season. He was like, they wrote me off, but I ain't right back. I mean, that's the line of the year. Geno Smith, with apologies to Brian Robinson coming back from getting shot, Geno Smith is comeback player of the year, and that's the line of the year. They wrote me off, but I didn't write back. I mean, he's just been he's done everything right. I'll tell you, I talked to somebody, this was early in the season, about 2 weeks in, that knows quarterbacks very, very well. And he said something to me that just like, I raised both eyebrows, and I was like, what? I was like, I said a word before that, and I was like, what? You can imagine what I said. He said that Geno Smith has more natural talent than Joe Burrow. I don't know how we got to comparing those two guys. But he's like, Geno Smith, in terms of just like his athletic ability, has more than Joe Burrow. I still don't necessarily see a difference or Geno being better than Joe Burrow, but maybe he is to the trained eye. I wouldn't classify mine as a trained eye. But, Michael, what it is, man, and I talk about this in my own journey. I'm sure you talk about it in your own journey. It's like sometimes, we got to remember that we're right where we're supposed to be. Like, who's to say that Geno Smith ever would have been this in New York? Who's to say that Geno Smith ever would have been this in the other New York team? Who's to say that he ever would have been this in San Diego or Los Angeles or the Chargers or whatever, or earlier in Seattle? Maybe he had to go through all of this, count it all joy. Maybe he had to go through all of this in order to get to this point and be the player that he is now. Maybe he's playing differently than he would have played as a youngster or as somebody who didn't have these experiences, these scars, these perspectives. So it's just a great story that keeps getting better. And the other thing I want to point out is I want to give props to the entire organization because none of us saw.
Please do.
Well,
we got to go there, don't we?
Well, go back to the summer. I'll go back to the rush trade in a second, but we're gonna stay on Geno. Go back to the summer when Pete Carroll had Drew Lock and Geno Smith competing for the job. They were like, okay, so they just tanking then, right? They just they're not even worried. Like, remember all the Jimmy Garoppolo rumors? If he had gotten cut, that they would jump all over him. Baker Mayfield. Nobody thought that the winner of that competition, previous backup Geno Smith, was going to have them as, right now, sorry San Francisco, the best team in the NFC West. That team right now is playing cohesively. They're playing aggressively. They lost their number one running back, and now they got a great one, and then a second-round pick in Kenneth Walker III. It's just a great, great story. And I'll end it by, Geno won't say I told you so, but I'll say I told you so. Because I distinctly recall being on your show, Michael. I was a guest on your show, Michael. And because here's the problem. The problem is Jason Johnson does this show more than I do nowadays. So Jason Johnson got you looking at the Seahawks and Russell Wilson through Jason Johnson colored glasses, okay? And I recognize the blue now. That's a really, really nice shirt. Far away, it looked like Gene. That's a banging ass shirt right there.
Thank you.
But anyway, he got you looking at the Seahawks sideways because of his love affair with Russell Wilson. I remember being on this show with you and Jim Trotter, and I'm like, I love this trade for Seattle. Y'all like, what? Yeah. Seattle didn't get enough for Russell Wilson. Seattle, that's an awful. I'm like, yo, they made out like bandits here. And now, even though they won over in London, Russell Wilson and the Broncos are working for the Seahawks.
3-5.
And the long-term quarterback answer, maybe it's Geno for a few more years, or maybe Geno's a long bridge to the next guy. But whether it's Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud or anybody else that the Seahawks may be looking at from a long-term standpoint, that'll be with the Broncos pick, not Seattle's. Thanks to that awesome trade for your high-kneeing in the aisle boy, Russell Wilson. That's it. That's all I got to say.
No, and don't you love it? Don't you know? Don't you love the move that Geno had? We just played it off the top where, a lot of people would just be like, yeah, you know what? It didn't work out with the Giants or whatever. And then we showed him today. He said, no, as a matter of fact, thanks for bringing it up. Right. This for Ben McAdoo and Jerry Reese.
Thanks
because
for believing
they believed in me. I mean, you can take any situation. You can take any situation, and it's your decision on what you want to do with it. You can take any situation. You can focus on what didn't happen or the good that came out of it. And I just think every step of the way, Geno this season, and it's okay, they're roughly halfway through with this 17. We need another half game. We need another half of football to be officially halfway through the season at 8.5. But I think he's already at every step this season, he has taken the high road, or he has turned down like the obvious, because his story is not obvious. So he refuses to be a cliche because his story is really not a cliche story. Nobody saw this coming. Maybe Pete Carroll did.
And people say that. People say that, but it's true in this instance.
But they really didn't.
It's true.
That's right.
It's true in this instance.
Nobody did.
They were supposed to be tanking.
I'm going to tell you, Geno is also, shout out to the late bloomers. He might be a late bloomer. It might be one of these things where he falls apart, or he could just be a late bloomer.
Or I just think, I think when it comes to quarterbacks, man, especially quarterbacks, but really all players, like they all enter the league the same way for the most part. Yeah, I mean, obviously, undrafted free agents, you know, they have more say, but they're undrafted free agents for a reason. And as undrafted free agents, they have more, they're standing on even shakier ground. Shout out to the Temptations when they enter the league. But all these players, they have no control over somebody's evaluation and which organization decides to bring them in to start their careers. Okay, they're at the mercy of somebody's subjective analysis of them. So in the case of the New York Jets, how many quarterbacks have the New York Jets cycled through? How dysfunctional have the New York Giants been in recent years? I mean, that Geno Smith, maybe it was just the wrong environment for him. Again, maybe he wasn't ready to be this guy. Probably not. But he certainly wasn't going to be that guy in New York, because it seems like nobody could be that guy in New York.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.